When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Can't charge $1 to any country under IEEPA. Not $1. I assume to protect other countries. This must have been done to protect those other countries, certainly not the United States of America. But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I'm even allowed to impose a foreign country-destroying embargo. I can embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1. I can do anything I want to do to them, but I can't charge any money. So I'm allowed to destroy the country, but I can't charge them anything.
Donald Trump, in reaction to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling today, saying that he could not continue to impose those tariffs based on emergency powers or whatever he wanted to call them. Jim, I don't even know what to say about this, except
Aaron,
that I don't know.
I'm listening to that clip. It's almost as if one of the texts you get came to life. It is really, and this is the important part. I would urge, I want people to listen to us. I want people to listen to CJD. But if you have a chance, go check out, and not through a so-called news network. Go onto one of the streaming services, C-SPAN or whatever. Check out that press conference, and you will have some indication of how, this Supreme Court decision is absolutely meaningless in Donald Trump's America. How the President of the United States, without pausing for breath and without being interrupted or questioned on it, says the Supreme Court is under foreign influence. It's under the influence of a political movement that he says is much smaller than people think. The fact that just because he's in a surly mood, Aaron, and this was tucked in at the bottom of our newscast, but he decided to impose a 10% tariff on the planet Earth. Everyone now, you have a deal with Donald Trump, that's fine, except now the deal has, and you have to pay an extra 10% tariff on it no matter what happens. We are in even more bizarre territory than before with Donald Trump. And the question, as I keep saying on this show, Aaron, it's not about Donald Trump anymore. It's about the people around him. It's about the country around him. How long will Americans tolerate this? We had an astounding story, which I thought didn't get enough attention, about America's trade deficit, which globally I think cashed in at about $5 trillion. I think it's about $1 trillion with China, Canada, and Mexico. But despite all this tariff nonsense, it's doing nothing because America does not have any kind of a manufacturing or production infrastructure, and the very billionaires who are propping up Donald Trump in office are responsible for that situation. But here we are. We're saying, well, what's going to happen now? We don't know. First of all, forget about getting that money back. That $175 billion, that's gone, okay? And indeed, the finance secretary, that nice Mr. Bessent, is already saying, I don't think anyone's ever going to see that. Meanwhile, this idea that, this ruling means that Congress has the, guess what? The House Majority Leader, Mike Johnson, Republican, pointed out after that ruling came out that, President Trump's tariffs have brought in $175 billion to the American economy, and we will do everything we can to make sure that blah, blah, blah. In other words, we're the ventriloquist dummy. Here we are. Stick your hand up our back, and we'll do whatever it is that you want to say. Even before the midterms, it would be political suicide. But we're at the point, I think, in the States now, Aaron, where they don't care about that. The cult has taken over, even though it's demonstrably throttling the American economy, even though people are getting screwed over. And right now, from what I can see, at least in the short term, Aaron, America's reaction to this is a shrug. And I think that above and beyond everything else is why Donald Trump is still around. He is able to assess that uninformed, ignorant apathy and use it to his advantage. And I will guarantee you, and I'm nothing against the Olympics, but I guarantee you more Americans will be paying attention to the fact whatever the Olympic results are today than anything that happened today with the Supreme Court and Donald Trump. And that is the absolutely scary part.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I wonder how long this stays in the news cycle through the weekend in the U.S. Given
Absolutely.
Fact,
I mean, this is, and that's why I say, though, folks, if you can, and you won't thank me for it because it's going to be like going to the dentist. You'll be amazed. But try and get a Donald Trump press conference that is not going through the filter of Fox News or CBS or ABC or MSNBC. Try and get them on C-SPAN, just straight, unplugged, as we like to say, and listen to that guy talk. And you tell me whether this guy should be in the White House.
I will say one thing with respect to the ruling, and it's no surprise, we know what to expect from Donald Trump. But I had this moment, Jim, where I thought to myself after the ruling, the Supreme Court, these are for the most part judges he, appointed, right? Let's remember that. And even though it was a split decision, I thought maybe he would say something like after the ruling, you know what? I respect the ruling of the highest court in the land. And I thought, are you an idiot to think that? No. He basically he basically attacked these judges, calling for all intents and purposes stupid, disloyal, and everything else. And I just thought, that's where we live.
Under foreign influence. I mean, that, and like I say, I'm amazed as a journalist, no one sees on it. Like, what do you mean? But no, they're under foreign influence. And I got to tell you, I actually sobbed when I saw at least one headline after the ruling saying Trump realizes the rule of law prevails in the U.S. And I'm thinking, no, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
And you and I will be talking about whatever new grudge. I mean, this weekend, if it stays, you're right, if it stays on the news cycle, buddy, it's going to be because he found a new way to go after the people who he thinks insulted him and did him dirty and did not treat his office with the proper amount of respect. And that's the scary part. And yet, over and above everything else, folks, before everyone starts freaking out, and I'm sure you've been watching this as well, Aaron, the markets are doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing okay. I was talking to John Ehrlichman before, and I thought, once the announcement was made, markets opened in the red today. Then they went green, but they didn't go crazy. They're kind of still trying to figure it out. So
they're still trying to figure it out. But I think what's interesting is, and I may be wrong, I only have my own interests, but certainly energy stocks, which had been going up against the fact that the suspicion Donald Trump was going to invade Iran over the weekend, they've gone back down again because I think. They'll put him in his padded room and let him, punch a little clown doll or whatever, rather than invade Iran. So I guess that's good news.
All right, let me move on. Talk about something happening a little closer to home, and that's the decision we talked about. You brought this up yesterday, right? The decision, Simone Jolin Barrette on the Constitution talks and the abortion issue, which has become a pretty big deal. Apparently, he woke up, Jim.
He woke up, and it was so funny because, as I mentioned yesterday, Bernard Drinville was saying, I think he's going to think about it, and he'll have a statement sooner or later. And lo and behold, Aaron, here's this open letter that TVA and Québécois happened to get their hands on. I'm really wondering whether Bernard Drinville helped him write that letter. But he's saying, I've listened to people, and I don't want to compromise a woman's right to an abortion, and blah, blah, blah. And as I say, this is a rookie mistake. This is a fundamental mistake. If somebody knew what they were doing, had done their homework, or at least was surrounded by staff members who had done their homework, they never would have thrown this in. But the idea that for some reason, I guess it was to show the rest of the foreign country, as far as the CAQ is concerned, of Canada, that, c'est comme ça qu'on dit au Québec, enshrining a woman's right to an abortion, which is not enshrined in Canada, but it's considered a medical procedure covered by Medicare. No big deal about it. Make it enshrine it in law. You bring it into court. It's a target that can be challenged in court. And apparently, Simone Jolin Barrette, our justice minister, didn't quite figure that out. Yeah. So you know what? I guess better late than never. But once again, and we had better get used to this, because they're going to keep doing this between now and October. The other thing, of course, is the announcement today, which I guess on the one hand is good news. The Federation of Quebec General Practitioners says they want to hook up about 180,000 so-called vulnerable patients with family physicians between now and the end of March, which coincidentally is the end of the government's fiscal year. So I guess that, the whole money idea is involved, because there will be a stipend paid to physicians who actually, bring people into the system. But once again, this is a far cry from we're not going to bend the knee to the doctors. We're going to show those specialists and those family physicians whose boss, I'm sort of quoting loosely from Francois Legault, who was now, as far as this entire Bill 2 thing going, he's still hiding under his desk. Actually, he's just waiting to leave. But yeah, this is a complete reversal, or as I like to say, another flip-flop Friday for the cat. But, as I say, let's get used to it. And if nothing else, Aaron, if it stops them from doing even more stupid stuff between now and October, I'm all for it.
So much the better. Jim, give me a real quick take on my question today, which is, watching the Olympics, I've heard some people saying, hey, how come Canada is not doing better? We've got, 16, 17 medals. That's far off what our high has been. And my question then became, maybe we should be treating our amateur athletes in this country a little bit better. You look at what some countries do in supporting amateur athletes, and here we're kind of just giving them barely rent money to get by. What do you think?
I think the people now who are complaining about the performance of our Olympic teams will be the first ones to scream like banshees if we decide to increase the budgets to support amateur sport in this country. But as I say, and I think it takes a hell of a lot of nerve for some, a Pillsbury doughboy sitting on a sofa to turn around and say, I don't think he's skating fast enough. You know what? Shut up. These people are out there. They're representing, not just representing Canada, they're representing the best of themselves. So honest to God, by all means, give them more to deal. But above and beyond, let's stop this garbage of people turning around saying, well, no, I think we should be doing it. Why can't we be more like the Norwegians? Well, because we're not Norwegians. I don't know. But, the thing is, whether it's sports programming or funding, Aaron, above and beyond everything else, try and have a little respect for the people who really are working like hell for a very limited return. Maybe they'll get a medal, maybe they won't. Either way, it's their one shot. They're taking it. The least I think we can do is support them no matter what.
Hear, hear. Well said. James, have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, buddy.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.